Good morning, councillors. The meeting is now resumed. Are there any apologies?
Mr Chair, I advise that Councillor Hammond will be absent today and I move that she be granted a leave of absence.
Seconded.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Landers and seconded by Councillor Hutton that Councillor Hammond be granted a leave of absence from today's meeting. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. Are there any other apologies? Thank you. All right, I now call on the Leader of the Opposition, Councillor Jared Cassidy, to address the chamber. Councillor Cassidy.
Thanks very much, Chair. Labor. Labor was a key theme of the Lord Mayor's budget speech, and I can understand why he's a bit worried. The reason the Lord Mayor is always looking over his shoulder is because the LNP are yesterday's news in Brisbane. The Lord Mayor just blames and complains he offers no vision for the future. Just in the last couple of weeks, he's blamed the federal government, the state government, COVID, the floods and Jim Sawley. But mostly he seems quite obsessed with Labor. And let's take a look at that more closely. In the Lord Mayor's almost hour-long speech, he mentioned footpaths just 3 times. He mentioned drainage just once. The Lord Mayor uttered the word recycling 9 times in his speech. Seems quite high, doesn't it? He said environment just 3 times and climate twice. He referenced homelessness just 2 times in his speech, but you know what he didn't mention even once? Walking, pedestrian, cycling, and what's truly, really true to form, he couldn't bring himself to say the word reconciliation at all. But the key theme of his speech clearly was us, Labor. That appeared all throughout that speech, 14 times in total from start to finish. I guess he had to fill the gaps where all the references to the LNP were missing because he couldn't mention his own political party at all. Now, he could spend all day talking about how out of touch the LNP are, how bereft of ideas and how truly scared they are of their own personal political futures. But Brisbane is a progressive city. It's a city thinking about the future. And in the words of the great Australian philosopher John Paul Young, Adrian Schrinner and the LNP are yesterday's heroes. We want to talk about the future. A lot of that, of course, will be informed by the past. Labor has a proud legacy of delivering for the city. In fact, many of the most iconic things about Brisbane were Labor achievements. City Cats, the Powerhouse, suburban libraries, bushland, the inner city bypass, household recycling, just to name a few. It would be remiss of me, of course, not to mention the Sawley administration's amazing work towards reconciliation, including the ceremony in 1998, where the keys to the city were handed to Herb Bligh, a local Aboriginal elder. This great legacy left by Labor and Council brings me to a very important point, not just about the future of Brisbane, but the future of our nation. The referendum we will all vote in later this year is about recognition and respect. We have a gift in this country in having 2 of the world's oldest continuing living cultures. The Voice is not about politicians, it's not about courts, it's not about Canberra. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people have been left out of the decision-making process for too long. In 2019, I moved a motion calling on Council to support the Uluru Statement from the Heart. This statement and its deliberate approach to voice, treaty and truth was a gift to the Australian people. Less than a month ago, our team moved a motion calling on Brisbane City Council to reaffirm this support and to actively support a yes vote. As the largest local government in the country, people pay attention to what we say and what we do here. Brisbane is a progressive and a modern city. It's a city that will have the eyes of the world on it as we approach the Brisbane 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games. Unfortunately, Adrian Schrinner, along with every single LNP councillor, let their true colours shine. The LNP and Brisbane City Council had an opportunity to stand on the right side of history and they blew it. But when the LNP goes low, we will go high. Our commitment to giving First Australians a voice runs deep and Labor councillors will campaign for a yes vote. Labor stands on the right side of history. Labor councillors initiated Brisbane's first domestic violence strategy. Labor councillors initiated Brisbane's first homelessness strategy. Labor councillors insisted on the delivery of Council's first ever reconciliation action plan. Labor councillors fought for family-friendly hours and hybrid meetings. Labor councillors have continued to call out inequality within the council workforce. All the while, women have faced catcalling, insults and derogatory comments from the LNP in this place. It's a disgrace, but unfortunately it's what we have come to expect. But we have a positive vision for a council that is focused on service delivery in the suburbs. We have a vision for a council that values secure and well-paid work. We are committed to a genuinely carbon neutral council that removes 100,000 tonnes of organic waste from landfill each and every year through additional waste services. Labor values the contribution of the community and will empower them to have a meaningful say on how their neighbourhoods develop into the future. Labor has a proud track record of supporting community housing providers in Brisbane, and we will renew that support. Brisbane is an amazing place full of amazing people who make our communities special. I'm constantly in awe of people like Sammy Leone, who established the Boss Boxing in Zilmia, giving young people a place to gather, learn self-discipline and get serious meaning in their lives. A small grant from the Deagon Ward Community Fund got them going and they've never looked back. The Y at Cannon Hill brings true meaning to what it is to be a community centre. From seniors yoga to kids craft, the team at the Y bring people together. They're also a hugely valued source of comfort and support for those doing it tough in the community through their Wellness Wednesdays, where they provide food parcels, clothing, toiletries and Orange Sky laundry is on site. They have a range of community services come by too. They're on the front line making a difference every single day. These are the sort of people who make Brisbane amazing, and they need our support. Brisbane has always been a city of suburbs, unique communities that collectively make our city special. But in the midst of a cost of living crisis, they need all the help they can get. Labor recognises the need for financial support for ratepayers this year. A rates freeze was possible. It's all about priorities. We saw a $57 million blowout on the Victoria Park Barrambin project announced this week. We saw $400 million added to the Metro and Green Bridges 6 months ago. Under Labor, value for money projects will come first, and that will deliver dividends to the ratepayers through lower rates than the LNP could ever dream of. We know that support for average ratepayers out in the suburbs doesn't give an opportunity for glossy brochures and photo ops, but it's the right thing to do. I was talking to a charity operating in Nunda recently who provides food for people doing it tough. They cook enough food to feed hundreds of people a week. And they're seeing more and more families come because they are now at the point of making the decision whether to pay bills or put food on the table for their family. That's why it's always galling to hear childish LNP councillors call out, "Who cares?" These people care very much about every single dollar. Housing stress is at an all-time high in Brisbane. Rental vacancy rates are stubbornly stuck at 1% or lower, and the median house price is just below $800,000 now. Supply is key, as is the supply of specifically affordable housing as part of the mix. Labor has said nothing should be off the table when it comes to finding a solution. Options should include direct investment alongside housing providers, something the Brisbane City Council did in the past. We should look at further support through infrastructure charge discounts and follow the lead of Moreton Bay Council and give a 100% discount for a period of time. And we should also look at zoning changes where appropriate. The Lord Mayor gleefully said on the 2nd of August last year, almost a year ago now, that he wanted to look at Sandgate as a trial site for affordable housing incentives. I wrote to the Lord Mayor on the 8th of September last year with some ideas and some options and offered to work with him on this critical issue. Radio silence. A simple word has been the Lord Mayor's only plan to address housing stress in Brisbane: Pinkenba. Well, what's next? Unlike the Lord Mayor, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. Labor will work across the city to find new solutions wherever they lay. I've thought for a long time the LNP aren't really that serious about housing affordability. They use the issue for political gain, but actions speak louder than words. The LNP fought tooth and nail against the delivery of tens of thousands of homes, including hundreds of social and affordable homes across Brisbane, from Hamilton to Castledine and Fitzgibbon. If the LNP had their way, not one of those homes would ever have been built. They delayed the delivery of a housing and homelessness plan for Brisbane and have prioritised developers above the community every step of the way. Community housing providers are crying out for help, and what do they get? Just crumbs. Labor set up the Brisbane Housing Company. Labor values the dignity of a roof over your head. Labor will support the community housing sector because we always have. And more, Labor values the dignity of work and understands the opportunities that having safe and secure work brings. We will undertake a root and branch review of all contracting practices in this council and offer the people of Brisbane both the value for money they deserve and the workers of Brisbane the job security they deserve. The silly state of affairs in council where we now have external contractors to manage the many external contracts for basic work has to stop. A council that is focused on service delivery is one that is focused on people, both residents and workers. We will rebuild the relationship between council and its workforce. We will respect our workers, and we won't value people who join their union less than others like the LNP do. Some of the workers that are shown the least respect by this LNP council are our tremendous bus drivers. These frontline workers literally keep our city moving. In the month of May, there were 82 instances of verbal and physical abuse on our drivers. This is over 20 times a week in the last month. Drivers and their union have been crying out for full driver barriers for years and years and years. But time and again, this has fallen on deaf ears of the Lord Mayor and his LNP council. Meeting after meeting where we raised bus driver safety, the Lord Mayor treated this matter like a joke. He laughed in drivers' faces. Our Labor team worked with the RTBU on petitions, on public rallies, at meetings, media appearances, but the Lord Mayor and the LNP refused to act. It's now taken 100% Labor state government funding to finally get some action in this space, with the first round of full driver barriers being retrofitted to keep our drivers safe. The Lord Mayor, as the chair of the Transport Committee, previously said barriers would cost in excess of $200,000 per bus, but now we know it's $15,000. Councillor Ryan Murphy said bus drivers didn't want full barriers, but now we've heard how overwhelmingly positive the consultation with drivers has been. Let's not forget, this is the same councillor who described bus drivers as having cosy jobs. When we raised the deplorable state of toilet facilities that bus drivers were forced to use, the Lord Mayor and Councillor Ryan Murphy laughed once again. They honestly think that the safety of our frontline workers is a joke. We don't. Labor respects workers. We should be delivering more basic services in-house and making more things here. Not just basic things like playgrounds, but big things like buses. The Lord Mayor was strangely confident that the people of Brisbane preferred his policy of buying from overseas instead of building them right here in Brisbane. How out of touch could you be? I've door-knocked residents in my ward, but also in the Northgate and Marchant ward recently, asking residents what they thought of the Lord Mayor's decision to send bus manufacturing jobs to China instead of Eagle Farm. Now, to say these people were ropeable would be an understatement. I remember a young mum asking where the future jobs would be if this was kept up, and there was an older gentleman who knew a thing or two about Brisbane's bus building heritage and was dismayed. I wonder when the Lord Mayor last knocked on someone's door and asked them what they thought. I wonder if he's walked up to someone in the mall and asked that question. If the Lord Mayor wants to do that right now I'm up for it. Let's take the cameras out to the mall and do a straw poll. Do you support Labor's plan to manufacture buses in Brisbane or the LNP's plan to send those jobs to China? We can do it right now. I guess not. Service delivery in the suburbs is key to Labor's approach. Basic suburban investment should be the core of Council's work. When you look through the threadbare Suburban Works program, it's pretty sad reading. Just 16 new footpaths, down from 18 last year. Just 5 new drainage projects in the suburbs. and 0 new stormwater projects. Less than 0.1% of this budget is allocated to suburban congestion busting projects. And one of the very few suburban projects that the LNP announced in the last couple of years, the Nudgee Recreation Reserve, is still in doubt. Locals in the Northgate ward have been left in the dark by Councillor Adam Allen and Lord Mayor Adrian Schrinner. This project was announced, then it was gutted by the LNP, then re-announced by Councillor Adam Allen. The LNP had to be dragged kicking and screaming to include the basic park upgrades that they had tried to cut. Today, it's still not clear when or if they will ever be delivered. Labor will change this. We will focus on the suburbs of Brisbane. We have already announced our suburban mobility plan, which is a plan of action. This would see footpaths delivered in places like Pollara in the Cullenvale ward, where I've visited and spoken with residents who are calling out for more basic infrastructure, like footpaths and bus stops. Residents know that Councillor Angela Owen and the Lord Mayor have failed to invest in services to keep pace with development. Labor will allocate an additional $5 million in funding annually for footpath repairs to fast-track these critical jobs. Labor will also fund an additional $20 million worth of new footpaths each and every year in the capital budget. This will see almost 200 kilometres of new footpaths delivered in the suburbs of Brisbane over the next 4 years alone. Now, unlike the Lord Mayor, who complains about how hard it is to build a footpath on a suburban street, Labor will just get on with the job. We'll work with advocates, with peak bodies and local residents to make Brisbane more accessible and more inclusive. And this goes for cycling and public transport in the suburbs too. We'll get on with the North Brisbane Bikeway. We'll make Nudgee Road safe, and we'll invest in cycling infrastructure right across Brisbane, rather than claim a single bridge costing hundreds of millions of dollars could be considered a plan for the suburbs. There has been no meaningful growth in public transport funding for the suburbs of Brisbane. In fact, over successive years, services have been cut. Bus services are being cut, and it takes years for simple bus shelters and new bus stops to be constructed. Ferry services have been cut, and its impact on residents has been real. And I know, again, those opposite like to say, who cares? But tell that to Jack's elderly mother from Norman Park. Jack said, my elderly mother used it all the time, and it has been awful to lose it. So there's always a human side to your cuts, Lord Mayor. If you want to break the back of congestion in Brisbane, it has to be through public and active transport connecting our suburbs to the city. The sad fact is the Metro Bus project will now probably exceed $2 billion, be delivered late and never live up to the hype or expectation, having just 60 buses to operate it. The amount of suburban bus infrastructure and services you could have delivered for $2 billion would have been transformational. Labor will make suburban mobility in all its forms a priority. Labor will boost the drainage budget. It shouldn't take years and years and years to get basic projects funded. Residents in Hemmant and Tingalpa in the Doughboy ward would agree. They're extremely disappointed in the lack of investment in flood mitigation and suburban drainage. I know this because I've spoken to them. Councillor Lisa Atwood and Lord Mayor Adrian Schrinner have let these communities down, but Labor won't. In the wake of the February 2022 flood disaster, residents have been clear on their priorities. The single biggest priority for my residents this year was drainage. It's clear from the Lord Mayor's budget, his priorities don't align with them. And what would Brisbane be without our community and sporting clubs? Volunteers are asked to do more with less. We're seeing a few things happen around Brisbane at the moment, but they're all pointing to a need for more council support. Some organisations who rely on a smaller and often ageing group of volunteers to deliver services are doing it tough, but they're still expected to maintain council buildings, to pay insurance, pay the water, pay electricity. We've heard from community organisations the council will be phasing out any support for water charges at council-owned facilities from this budget on. Now, this follows on from the LNP's callous cuts to pensioner water emissions. This cruel cut will mean volunteer organisations will now need to dig deeper into their already small reserves just to keep the doors open. We also have sporting clubs that are growing rapidly and bursting at the seams, often in facilities that were built 50 years ago or more. The status quo isn't working out in the community. We need to see change. I was talking to members of the Banyo RSL recently, and they asked why Brisbane City Council makes it so hard for them. They've seen the support that Moreton Bay Council offers their community groups. I agree, we can do better. Talking to the volunteers at the Sandgate Hawks Netball Club who train at Fitzgibbon at the Bill Brown Reserve, you immediately know how proud they are of their club and their players. But when they ask this LNP Council where is the funding for expanding those courts to accommodate the incredible growth in the sport, the answer is inevitably the money's needed for the Metro. That's right. The Zilmia Eagles were a leader in girls' participation in AFL in Brisbane, but because there was no appropriate change rooms, they haven't been able to support young women to play AFL at a council-owned facility. Thankfully, the state Labor government has come to the rescue there and is funding an upgrade at this council-owned facility. The story is familiar no matter where you go in Brisbane. Let's head over to Stafford in the Marchant Ward, where residents are still feeling deeply betrayed by this LNP council. Their beloved Stafford Bowls Club, which had been shut down by council and left to rot for years, was handed to the Brisbane Racing Club in a behind closed doors deal at the end of last year. Residents rose up to start a community campaign in the hope to save this once thriving local institution for the community. These local residents were then insulted by both the Lord Mayor and local councillor Fiona Hammond. Porky's concoction fake campaign. They were the phrases used by the LNP in response to almost 1,000 residents signing a petition to save their local bowls club. This goes to show that under Lord Mayor Adrian Schrinner and the LNP, public-owned facilities are not safe. Council is putting too much pressure on volunteers to deliver services in the community and don't offer enough support, and worse still, are happy flogging off community facilities to private operators. That's right. That Labor will change that. We will get the council budget to focus on the community once again. Even though the Lord Mayor wouldn't mention climate change or the environment in his speech, I'll spend some time on it. Yes. Brisbane's council is carbon neutral because overseas carbon credits are purchased. Our fingers are all collectively crossed that they're legit, but there's no guarantee that they actually are. Labor's plan to return the Bushland Acquisition Fund to purchasing bushland, and our plan to remove 100,000 tonnes of organic waste from landfill each year will be the centrepiece of our path to make Brisbane a genuinely carbon neutral city. Under the LNP, just 18% of bushland funding levied from the ratepayers of Brisbane is now used to purchase bushland. Maintenance work should be funded in the budget. Bushland should be funded from the levy. It's as simple as that. Under Labor, more precious bushland will be protected from the bulldozers, and we will ban the misuse of this fund like we've seen under the LNP. Residents in the eastern suburbs have raised serious concerns with this LNP Council's attitude to wildlife protection. Councillor Fiona Cunningham and Councillor Krista Adams have opted to play political games instead of providing more funding to build critical infrastructure, and they've shown they would rather spend your money, Brisbane, on signs with their faces on them than spend money protecting that bushland out there. Labor's plan to increase the weekly bin service to remove 100,000 tonnes of organic waste from landfill each year would be the most significant reduction in greenhouse gas emissions we have ever seen in Brisbane. The Lord Mayor is Conservative, we all know that. He likes the status quo, but I think what he doesn't understand is that without action on climate change, the status quo itself is under threat. Simple scare campaigns don't cut it anymore. People expect leadership and they expect value for money. Our plan for increased household waste services is the most direct way of getting that. My advice to the Lord Mayor is stop looking over your shoulder and start looking forward. It's time for a change in City Hall, and it's time for residents to be put first again. The eyes of the world will be on Brisbane for the 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games. Brisbane is crying out for progressive leadership rather than more blaming and complaining. 20 years in power is a very long time enough to welcome new ideas and a new approach. There is too much at stake for our city to keep going with this same old Conservative way. The experience people have of this 20-year-old LNP council is increasingly a bad one. Paying more and getting less in the suburbs of Brisbane. Labor has a clear plan as we count down the days towards Brisbane 2032 and the years beyond. It's a simple message. Labor in council is all about the suburbs, all about service delivery and all about people. Putting downward pressure on rates, reinvesting in the suburbs and investing in a permanent organic recycling program is just the start for us. Auditing all external contracts to ensure value for money, stamping out ratepayer-funded political advertising and scrapping useless apps and information centres that no one visits is next. Working with other levels of government to deliver for residents rather than blaming and complaining is key. Employing tradespeople, apprentices and trainees and giving them secure and permanent work and making Brisbane City Council an employer of choice again. Labor doesn't need flashy photo opportunities or teams of spin doctors to outline our plans. Our clear list of priorities is simple. Real measures to relieve cost of living pressures, action to address the housing crisis, and giving residents what they deserve, services in the suburbs and value for money. This was the Lord Mayor's election budget, and it's clear what his priorities are. A very narrow approach to try and cling to power. Come March 2024, the choice couldn't be clearer for Brisbane. 4 more years of the LNP or a different, brighter future. I think I know which one Brisbane will choose. And in closing, I want to say thank a few people, my colleagues, of course, here, Deputy Leader, Councillor Lucy Collier, Councillor Steve Griffiths and Councillors Strunk and Whitney. This is an exciting time for Councillors Collier and Whitney. It's your first budget as we're experiencing this, and I certainly hope you come back to Council in August for the next session after we get through this next week. Thank you all to all the dedicated council staff out in the field doing that hard work on getting projects costed, planned and built. All those staff that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, we really appreciate their work in Brisbane. And under Labor, our commitment is you'll have plenty more work to do out in the suburbs of Brisbane. And of course to my staff in City Hall for your dedicated work and support for our team here, Tom Kirsten, Jess and Daniel. There's another week or so to go. And lastly to Councillor Cunningham, congratulations. You are clearly moving up. The shift is on, we can all see that. We can see the moves to get you to sit in that Deputy Mayor's chair. The new announcement for the task force on transforming the inner city buildings is clearly important work, and that it's been given to you rather than Deputy Mayor speaks volumes, I think. And I think you'll be a vast improvement as the new Deputy Mayor of Brisbane. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Cassidy. Now call on the Civic Cabinet Chair of Finance and City Governance Committee, Councillor Fiona Cunningham, to reply. Councillor Cunningham.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. It's my great honour to stand here today to speak in support of Lord Mayor Adrian Schrinner's 2023-24 budget for Brisbane. A budget which responds to the challenges confronting our city now, and a budget which supports a forward-looking agenda to protect our great Brisbane lifestyle and livability as we grow. It is a balanced budget, Mr. Chair. And when I say balanced, I don't just mean financially balanced, which of course it is. It is balanced by providing real cost of living relief to residents when they need it, while maintaining a strong financial position with reductions to forecast debt. It is balanced by providing support for the vulnerable and those experiencing homelessness, while also laying the groundwork for sustainable housing growth and supply in the future. It is balanced by delivering significant public and active transport infrastructure, while also investing in huge numbers of congestion-busting road projects, both big and small, in suburbs across Brisbane. And it is balanced, Mr Chair, by having record spends on suburban services and upgrades, while also planting the seeds for future projects which will secure Brisbane's place as Australia's lifestyle capital. Mr Chair, at the heart of this budget is our $80 million cost of living relief package. We know that our community is doing it tough. Brisbane has the second highest inflation rate in the country, currently at 7.4%. The very real struggles of Brisbane households were front of mind in developing the budget. Residents expect their council to plan and build the future of their city and suburbs, but they don't want council to be adding to the cost of living burden. That's why this budget provides real relief. By slashing the annual cost of a green waste recycling bin by 52%, we're doing just that. This takes the cost down from over $93 a year to just $45, now costing less than $1 a week. Nearly 140,000 households, representing nearly half the owner-occupied properties in Brisbane, have a green bin. This discount will provide an incentive for even more residents to take it up. We've also announced a $2 summer dips policy, again more than halving the entry fees for nearly 15,000 people per day who use our pools over summer. At a time when everything is getting more expensive, this will provide a cheap family activity all summer long and benefit pool users of all ages. Mr Chair, we also continue to provide free off-peak transport for our seniors, plus Queensland's most generous pensioner rates concession scheme. These are the kinds of policies that are only possible through continued strong financial management. Mr Chair, it didn't take long after the Lord Mayor's budget speech for the Leader of Opposition to start spinning mistruths and misrepresentations. Cherry-picked line items from the budget book were a favourite for Councillor Cassidy through you, with one of the most ridiculous claims being about our spend on suburban congestion-busting projects. As Councillor Cassidy has stated, we do of course have a schedule of works in the budget called congestion-busting projects. Well spotted, Councillor Cassidy, gold star to you. It's an investment as part of well over $200 million on congestion busting and road improvement projects across the suburbs of Brisbane. Councillor Cassidy clearly missed some of the record investment in congestion busting projects, like the Fig Tree Pocket Kenmore Road intersection upgrade, the Cinnamon Road Centenary Motorway on-ramp at Jindalee, and the Blunder Road and Wallaroo Way intersection upgrade at Forest Lake. Of course, these are just a few examples of the congestion-busting projects and investments in our suburbs road network, which are not included under the line item cherry-picked by Councillor Cassidy. The biggest council-led congestion-busting project being delivered right now is the investment being made at Moggill Road, which is a transformative congestion-busting investment for the western suburbs. And of course, who could forget that this council remains committed to delivering one of the biggest congestion-busting investments the North Side has ever seen, with the delivery of the Beams Road upgrade, stretching from Castledine to Tagum in his own ward, Mr Chair. If Councillor Cassidy is so concerned about the delivery of road upgrades in Brisbane, perhaps his federal Labor colleagues could stop playing games and immediately confirm their funding share for this project so that we can get on with delivering it. On that note, Mr Chair, I'd like to talk about something the Schrinner Council continues to do. That is getting on with the job of delivering basic council services in the suburbs. This budget confirms record investments in regular road surfacing and drainage projects 87% of the budget is being spent in the suburbs as part of the Lord Mayor's Suburbs First guarantee. We're committing to a new library at Indooroopilly as we get on with the construction of the new Everton Park Library. We've also allocated funding for a new SES depot at Bracken Ridge. We're building suburban sport parks with major projects underway at Nudgee and Murarrie, and we're planning for future projects at Pallara, Upper Kedron and Ellen Grove. Mr Chair, the Schrinner Council is committed to delivering great infrastructure and services for every suburb in Brisbane. We have another record investment in footpaths this year, with $41 million allocated in the central budget, Mr Chair. Now, this leads me to Labor's self-described major policy announcement on the weekend. Their big idea for the future of our city is to spend another $25 million a year on footpaths. We hear the opposition talk about footpaths a lot, Mr Chair. We hear about this ridiculous notion that every street in Brisbane must have a footpath, and that's the top issue in our suburbs. Under Labor's vision, Councillor Cassidy's coming to your local street with his concrete truck, whether you like it or not. He'll rip out the grass, rip out the trees. It's Councillor Cassidy's concrete paradise. Footpaths are important, Mr Chair, and that's why we're investing record amounts this year. You see, on this side of the chamber, Mr Chair, we actually build and deliver footpaths. So, as we know, every councillor receives an annual allocation of nearly $600,000 to deliver priority projects in their ward, including things like new footpaths. This is on top of the $41 million we have allocated this year. So given footpaths is the #1 issue that Labor councillors seem to be talking about, given they discuss all the streets in Brisbane allegedly crying out for footpaths, Mr Chair, surely you would think that they must be allocating most of their money from their suburban enhancement funds towards footpath projects, right? Well, let's just have a look, Mr Chair. In the current financial year to date, Councillor Cassidy has delivered just 2 footpath projects from his SEF. Last year, it was 2. Doesn't sound like a lot, Mr Chair, but let's check a few more wards just to be sure. In Wynnum Manly Ward, there have been 0 projects delivered this year. There was 1 last year. Councillor Strunk has delivered just 1 project this year and none last year as well. What about Morningside Ward?
Surely there'll be more.
How many SEF projects have been delivered by the former and new Deputy Labor leader in the past 2 financial years? None. Not 1. 0. Councillor Collier said she was genuinely dismayed at what she claimed was a lack of footpath projects in the budget.
So genuine.
Councillors, please.
Well, through you, Mr Chair, I would say to Councillor Collier that in her first full year of having a SEF to allocate, I hope she does better on footpaths than her colleagues, given their rhetoric on this subject. I'd be expecting every cent of the Morningside SEF to be spent on footpaths this year. Mr Chair, in the full 21-22 financial year, LNP councillors invested an average of over 50% more funding for footpath projects than Labor councillors did from their SEF. That's our record, Mr Chair. The Paralympics in 2032...
She just did, mate. She just did.
Councillor Johnston, please.
That's the numbers.
The Paralympics in 2032, Mr Chair, are absolutely a catalytic opportunity for our city to be one of the most accessible in the world. We continue to make improvements to our city's accessibility. It is built into pretty much every single project that we do. But Labor's exaggerations on this topic, their rank hypocrisy, must be called out. I also want to take the opportunity to call out mistruths on rates. Councillor Cassidy claims that rates have gone up by 17% across 5 budgets since the Lord Mayor took office. He's wrong, once again, Mr Chair, not correct. And he would do well to remember that over the same period that has informed those 5 budgets, inflation in Brisbane has increased by just a tick under 20%. Now, across the Lord Mayor's 5 budgets, rate rises have been well below inflation. And of course this year, general rates for owner-occupied houses have increased by less than
Councillor
half
Strunk.
the rate of inflation. That, of course, is unlike the previous Labor administration's 4 rate hikes over 6%. In those 4 years, Mr Chair, on average, the inflation rate was just 1.4%. The combined inflation rate in those 4 years was less than inflation in this year alone. It is really, really quite remarkable. Mr Chair, the decisions we have made on rates are responsible decisions in these times. Yes, we are mindful of the cost of living pressure on residents. That's why Brisbane retains the cheapest rates in South East Queensland and why this budget provides further relief. But Council too faces many significantly rising costs for ongoing services to residents, in addition to the rising construction costs. Councillor Cassidy's proposed policy of a rates freeze in this environment is reckless. Combined with his footpaths policy, he's created a $100 million black hole. Just across 2 policies, $100 million. Now, councils across the country, Mr Chair, levy just 3% of all tax in Australia. And with that 3%, we have a number of services to provide. So if Councillor Cassidy's policy is to reduce this council's operating revenue in real terms, what services for residents is he going to cut, Mr Chair? I'll tell you this much for free. His claims about axing a valued newsletter isn't going to plug the black hole, because it shows again that Labor can't manage money. And ultimately, residents would pay the price for their mismanagement. Another continual fail.
Councillors, please.
Mr Chair, another continual policy fail from the opposition is FOGO. They are clueless when it comes to the complexity of running a program like this in Brisbane. It is why our methodical, staged approach is the right one. You can't turn on a citywide food waste recycling program in Australia's biggest council overnight, like Councillor Cassidy continuously implies. The residents of Brisbane can't trust Labor to manage our waste system, because we know that, like so many other councils that have moved to full FOGO, that Labor will cut that red top bin. Industry needs to be geared up for this change. Their hand-fisted approach will end in tears. Mr Chair, to housing now, something which has rightly been at the centre of public policy discussion for some time, both nationally and locally. Last year, we announced that those renting out entire dwellings on platforms like Airbnb would pay higher rates. Over 750 properties have been identified so far, and this year we are further increasing the rate surcharge above what other non-owner occupiers pay, from 50% to 65%. While of course it is right that council should send a price signal to encourage more homes to return to the long-term rental market, we know that short-stay accommodation is not going anywhere. We must strike the right balance between housing availability, economic and tourism benefits, and residential amenity. Short stays can create neighbourhood angst and complaints to council, as well as unrest in high-rise buildings, where you have groups of owners with Airbnbs effectively battling it out against owner-occupiers. The current state legislation is very limiting in terms of council's ability to appropriately regulate and manage the sector, and we know that there is more that can be achieved with the right policy settings. The Lord Mayor has asked me to chair a new short stay accommodation task force with 12 months to engage with property owners, bodies corporate, the likes of Airbnb and Stays and peak bodies to ultimately come up with a better way forward in managing this issue for Brisbane residents. Mr Chair, through our Sustainable Growth Strategy released earlier this year, we provided a blueprint to ensure that Brisbane can meet demand for housing while preserving low-density areas, unique character and our precious green space. This can be achieved through a series of initiatives like what we have announced at Kurilpa in terms of building heights, a plan to go tall rather than continuing to add to Southeast Queensland's endless suburban sprawl. We've seen the state government approve plans for a new mega development in Caboolture West, yet they balk at our plans for new homes in the most well-connected location in Queensland, if not the entire country. This is short-sighted political game playing, make no mistake. We also have our suburban renewal program, where we will seek to expand our residential footprint by transitioning remnant industrial land into mixed-use outcomes. If we want to improve housing availability, guess what? We need more homes. Councillor Cassidy likes to talk a big game on housing, Mr Chair, and so do the Greens. But as soon as a proposal for more homes is put on the table, they retreat to NIMBYism. And then they say they aren't NIMBYs. Then they read out 10 reasons why they say they support more homes, just not these particular homes. Mr Chair, that's how you know they're NIMBYs. Since 2016, Labor has opposed 16 out of 19 neighbourhood plans that they have come to the Chamber for adoption. That's 84% of plans for new homes opposed by Labor.
They're proud of it. And they're proud of it. Look, they're still saying they're proud of it. Still opposed.
Councillor Cassidy, please.
Mr Chair, in less than a year, voters in Brisbane will be faced with a choice. It's a clear choice between an experienced, balanced and reliable team with a plan and a destructive Labor-Green coalition. That is the choice. Instead of focusing on mud and bile, perhaps Councillor Cassidy would be better served explaining to the people of Brisbane how a Labor-Green coalition will work. Everyone knows that's Labor's only path to power, and they must be honest. How can they stand side by side? Side by side!
Silence, please. Councillors.
Mr Chair, how can they stand side by side with a party who have put views and policies out there, such as questioning the need for continued grass cutting in our suburbs? A party whose response to the need for more emergency housing is a how-to guide on break and enter and squatting. A party that opposes spending any money on projects which reduce road congestion. Residents will be asking these questions, and Councillor Cassidy is going to need to come up with some answers. Mr Chair, I want to talk for a moment about vision.
Excuse me, Councillor Massey.
Vision is something that people desperately seek from their elected leaders. Someone who can see beyond the gotcha moment, beyond the cheap shot and the easy headline, and actually articulate a long-term vision and put a plan in place to deliver it. Mr Chair, in Lord Mayor Adrian Schrinner, our residents have a leader with vision. Because it was his vision that has seen the delivery of transformational green bridges, and the Victoria Park project. It is his vision in this year's budget which will see us begin to plan for the future of our urban quarries at Mount Cootha and at Pine Mountain Road. It is his vision, Mr Chair, that has seen Brisbane become a global leader in public transport electrification and sustainability, whether it's Brisbane Metro or our investigation into a new electronic ferry. The Schrinner Council delivers on the basics, and our communities are the best in Australia. It's why so many people are ditching Sydney and Melbourne and moving to Brisbane. People want a leader to provide a vision for a city, and they have that in our Lord Mayor. On the other hand, Councillor Cassidy and his Labor team has no vision, no new ideas, no new plans. All he has is negativity and a $100 million black hole. Don't forget that. Councillor Cassidy had a chance to outline a positive vision for Brisbane, but he didn't. Mr Chair, he blew it. This is a tired and out of touch opposition.
20 years,
Mr Chair, the Schrinner Council has been...
Councillors, please.
The Schrinner Council has been agile and responsive to the challenges confronting Brisbane, Mr Chair. Our response...
Councillor Cassidy, please.
They think it's funny. Our response to the pandemic, we moved quickly to support local business and our community with relief on fees, rents and licences. Our on-the-ground response to last year's flood was immediate, with disaster response, community assistance, clean-up and repair.
Councillor Griffiths. Councillor Griffiths. Councillor Griffiths, I will warn you.
The Schrinner Council's history of strong financial management has provided the ability for real cost of living relief in this year in response to our inflation crisis. It is the Schrinner Council's history of financial discipline that means when times are tough, we can be relied upon by the people of Brisbane. The strong financial management and continued financial discipline is reflected in our forward projections and demonstrates our continued financial sustainability. Only Team Schrinner can provide the united and experienced leadership required to manage Australia's
Councillor Johnston, please.
largest $4.3 billion budget. Mr Chair, it takes a village to put together Council's annual budget, and there are many people who I want to acknowledge today. Firstly, to our Lord Mayor, thank you for your leadership for our city and for our team. Thank you also to our Deputy Mayor and to my other Civic Cabinet colleagues. To the CEO, Colin Jensen, Divisional Manager, Anne Lenz, and Chief Financial Officer, Mark Russell, thank you for your guidance and your support. To Sandra Bridgman, Emma McCarthy and Elizabeth West, and to the entire corporate finance team, thank you for your dedication and tireless efforts. I'd also like to acknowledge some of the staff in the Lord Mayor's office, especially Michael and Stephen, and a very big thank you to Dean in my office. I'm proud to have been part of the development of this budget. Together, the Schrinner Council team looks forward to delivering on it and delivering for the people of Brisbane. Thank you, Mr Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Lord Mayor.
Mr Chair, I move that the meeting now be adjourned until 9 a.m. on Wednesday, 21st of June 2023 to allow for program information sessions to be held later today and on Monday, 19th of June on the budget programs.
Seconded.
Thank you. It's been moved by the Lord Mayor and seconded by the Deputy Mayor that the meeting be adjourned until 9 a.m. on Wednesday, the 21st of June 2023, to allow for program information sessions to be held later today and on Monday, the 19th of June 2023, on budget programs. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. The meeting now stands adjourned until 9 a.m. on Wednesday, the 21st of June 2023.